The Family First Party, you remember it used to be quite a force in South Australia. Well, it'll be back on the ballot paper at the election next March. The minor party's been resurrected by two former state Labor ministers, Tom Kenyon and former Treasurer Jack Snelling, say the major parties have all failed to protect religious freedoms. Well, that man who knows a thing or two about leaving the Labor Party is One Nation's chief poobah in New South Wales, Mark Latham. He joins me now from Sydney. Mark, give me a sense of, I know it's a peculiarity, Family First to South Australia, but the fact you've got two serious Labor identities leaving and going out on their own. We've had the same issues going on with the centre-right, with Cory Bernardi, obviously, before in South Australia, Campbell Newman now in Queensland. What should we expect?
Well, I'd imagine they'd get some kind of vote, but in the case of Jack Snelling, you'd have to say it's a little bit too little too late, in that he was part of the Labor Party there as a minister and in the Labor Party caucus up to 2018. So these trends inside the Labor Party and the Labor left sneering at people of religious faith, particularly Christians, not supporting religious freedom. We saw in Western Sydney in the plebiscite about same-sex marriage, very prominent Labor Party members like Chris Bowen and Jason Clare, their electorates voted overwhelmingly against same-sex marriage. They went into the parliament against the wishes of their electorate, often very devout electorates, and voted for same-sex marriage. So people of religious faith have had every reason for a long while now to be disillusioned not only with the Labor Party but the broader left movement that sneer at their faith, that diminish it, that try to publicly ridicule Christians and to shut them up. The censorship of Margaret Court, Israel Folau, these have been disgraceful episodes in the public sphere. So anyone who's fighting for religious freedom, I say good luck to them. But there's been some of us in One Nation doing it for a lot longer than this born-again conversion by Jack Snelling today.
Talk to me about New South Wales. You know the areas better than anyone that have been locked down hard, that have got even more draconian restrictions than we've seen in Victoria. You know, the Victorian Parliament last year was shut down at a time when I firmly believe we need more scrutiny on the freedoms being taken away from us, not less. And now in New South Wales, I've heard today that the Parliament there will be shut down. Now, it's extraordinary. If the federal Parliament can sit and it'll return next week, why can't Macquarie Street?
Well, it needs to, Peter. Both the Liberal and Labor Party here have said close down the Parliament, suspend democracy. It really is like martial law in New South Wales. And this disaster in Sydney is the worst thing we've ever seen happen to our city. The government allowed the virus to get out of control. They didn't have adequate policing in the hotspot areas initially, places like Fairfield, Cumberland and Canterbury. They didn't take account of some of the cultural aspects that were going to cause big problems. We've now got huge loss of jobs and investment. The construction industry was closed down without any health advice. You've got the nightmare for many families of homeschooling now for a minimum of 7 weeks. It really is a schmozzle. So wouldn't you think every effort would be made for the Parliament to sit, for democracy to prevail, to have transparency and accountability of the Berejiklian government? It's multiple mistakes in this sphere, but no, the government's happy to close down the Parliament, and the Labor Party here, which is no opposition at all, is happy to go along with that.
And is there any argument as to why that's happened?
Health advice from Kerry Chant. The health dictatorship lives on to the point where the Chief Health Officer can write a very, very short letter that concludes with, it's against my advice for the Parliament to sit, and everyone falls into place. I'd like to know, for instance, where's the health advice that says that we're taking Pfizer vaccines out of country New South Wales and giving them to 18-year-olds in Western Sydney? There's plenty of people over the age of 60, unvaccinated, who want Pfizer. They can't get it. It's going to go to 18-year-olds healthy. The health advice is always give it to the elderly. We've got healthcare, aged care workers in Western Sydney, no vaccination. They want the Pfizer. It's not going to them. A lot of these decisions are very hard to understand. They seem to go against any sensible health advice. There should be accountability in the Parliament to sort out what's going on and a debate about a better approach for Sydney's benefit.
And vaccine choice. Mark Latham, thank you for your time.
Absolutely. Yeah, thanks, Peter.